Good evening, everyone. How are we all doing then? Can't believe it's Sunday again already. Honestly, the days are just flying by at the moment. Can you hear me? Oh yeah, it is Wednesday. See, that's how my week is going. I don't even know what day it is. I think that's genuinely the state of my brain right now. Delta, thank you for Claire's chocolate funds. She will definitely make good use of that. And thank you Frestus as well. Even more chocolate for the Claire. Thank you CSI. Yes, I've got a pile of parts next to me. I haven't had a chance to actually build anything yet, but the new computer is here. All the parts are here, and they're just waiting to be assembled. I went with an AMD Ryzen in the end. I did have a debate over whether or not I went for the 14th gen i9, but there are so many issues with it, I decided to go with Ryzen instead. Oh, thank you, Voorhees. And I'll take Claire across the road to a little cafe we've got here and have a cream tea. It's kind of awkward to build it on stream because, well, I don't have a camera, so that doesn't help. Although I will be getting a camera once the dev shed is constructed. Actually, I'm not sure if I mentioned it on the last stream, but our builder's been in touch and they've put us back a week, so construction will now be starting on the 14th of October on account of all the bad weather we've been having. Which is frustrating, but we'll get there in the end. Well, speaking of being busy, over the past few days I've been continuing the overhaul of the sensors, and I've been trying to get a dev build out, but there's been so much to do that I just haven't reached that point yet. So let's have a quick overview of what it is I've actually done. How best to do this? So yeah, if we start from the event graph, you're gonna let me double click? Yeah, there we go. So this particular widget blueprint was, if you can believe it, even more crazy than this at one point. What I've done is I've basically condensed everything into set sections depending on which sensor mode you're working with, and I'm really chasing having the widget display not doing any logic whatsoever, and I'll be extending that to the holo display afterwards, but for now just working with the widget. I want to do no logic on here at all. So we're recording all of the button inputs, and for the most part these just pass through a button ID to the underlying parent blueprint, which we then process, make it server authoritative, and then we do a switch to decide what we're going to do with it. So you can see here on the GPS mode, there's a lot more here now, and this is where the actual logic takes place. So, for example, if we press the mode button on the GPS, then it goes ahead and generates the sector data when you press that button. And importantly, it doesn't do it when you're pressing things like zoom in and out. So we're making sure that we only do the costly stuff only when it's needed, like at no other time. And then every aspect of how that particular display panel works is all done here. So all the logic should be done here. And you notice that the end point of all of these is setting this same single variable. So we're setting the same variable all over the place, which is this structure, which has grown quite a bit since Sunday's stream. So this is essentially every piece of information that's pertinent to the display of the sensors, including things like the actual galactic data as well, which I've been reluctant to put on here because it's quite a chunk of data, and as this is a replicated variable, obviously all of this data also gets replicated. So I need to make sure that only happens once at source and then never again. Otherwise we're going to be really kind of pushing the bandwidth. And then from there, so once we've set whichever particular data point we're setting, the rep notify on that, so this is what gets replicated. We update the UI, and all we're doing is just passing that single variable through, and then we broadcast that same variable out to any other system in the game that needs it. So So it's a really, really simple process. We update the data and then send it out to where it's needed. To be honest, we could probably even skip this step and just use this instead, but I'll have a think about improving that in the future. But this is where this ends up. So again, we've condensed all of the everything that was here is now condensed literally just to this. That can go away because we don't need that. And then quite simply, we run a switch on what mode we're on, and then we handle the display logic here. So all this is doing is it's taking each data point as it's passed through and then changing the display accordingly. And each one of these is responsible for a different display element. The last thing I was doing was just sorting out the listing of how many objects there are within a sector. I wanted to count the locations that are included within the sector, but that does mean generating them every time. So what I'm doing is I'm skipping that and just running a count instead. So we're having a look at just a flat count that we're setting without generating the underlying data behind them. So we know how many classes of how many A-class stars there are, but we're not actually generating any of their data. So this is just for the galactic data. So that's all working as expected, and I've just got about halfway through the long range, and there's a few things here which need to be tidied up. In fact, if I quickly run this, we can see what we're doing. So you can see here that we've got no data generated because nothing has triggered that. So that's something I need to do. But if we just switch modes, it brings it all up. So the act of clicking that button triggers the generation. See that this doesn't now. Oh, I need to put the background back on that again. And this is all nice and smooth now and doesn't cause any CPU impact at all, because it's not doing anything new in terms of data generation. It's just using the data that's there within that variable. If I click these little nudge buttons to go between sectors, you can see again nothing's happening because we're on the ship mode. But if we change that to manual, that is now generating data, and you can see there every time we click that, it generates data.